Welcome to Easy Classic Stories. This is a retelling of Treasure Island, a novel by Robert Louis Stevenson. Treasure Island is an exciting book by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's about a boy named Jim Hawkins who finds a treasure map. He goes on an adventure with pirates to find the treasure. The book is very successful. Many people love it. It has been turned into movies and cartoons. It's a thrilling story about adventure, bravery, and hidden treasures. Now listen carefully to the story. At the end, we'll have an exercise on key events to help test your understanding. In a small village by the sea, there was an inn called the Admiral Benbow. Young Jim Hawkins lived there with his parents. One day, an old sailor named Billy Bones came to stay. He was scary, with a big cut on his cheek and a bad temper. He always looked out for other sailors, especially one with only one leg. Billy Bones stayed for a long time. He drank a lot of rum and sang old sea songs. One day, a stranger came looking for Billy Bones. They argued, and Billy Bones had a stroke. Jim and his mother took care of him, but he was very sick. One evening, Dr. Livesey came to see Billy Bones. He said Billy Bones was very ill. That night, a blind man named Pew came to the inn. He wanted to see Billy Bones, but Jim tricked him and sent him away. The next morning, Billy Bones died. Jim and his mother opened his sea chest. Inside, they found a map. It was a treasure map. Jim was excited and decided to show it to Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney. Jim ran to Dr. Livesey's house. He showed him the map. Dr. Livesey was surprised and said, "This is a map to Captain Flint's treasure." They decided to go to Squire Trelawney's house to plan an adventure. At Squire Trelawney's house, they looked at the map. It showed an island with a big cross marking the treasure spot. Squire Trelawney said, "We must find this treasure." They decided to get a ship and sail to the island. Jim was excited but also scared. He knew the adventure would be dangerous, but he wanted to find the treasure. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a big adventure. After finding the treasure map, Jim Hawkins, Dr. Livesey, and Squire Trelawney decided to go on a big adventure. They planned to sail to the island marked on the map and find the treasure. Squire Trelawney went to Bristol, a big city by the sea. He wanted to find a ship and a crew. He bought a ship called the Hispaniola and hired Captain Smollett to lead it. He also found a cook named Long John Silver. Silver was big and strong with one leg made of wood. He seemed friendly and helpful. Jim was excited to go on the adventure. He helped Squire Trelawney and Dr. Livesey get ready. They bought food, water, and other things they needed for the trip. They also hired more sailors for the crew. One day Jim met Long John Silver at an inn. Silver was talking to some sailors. He said, "This voyage is special. We'll find treasure and we'll all be rich." Jim liked Silver. He thought he was a good man. But one night, Jim overheard something strange. He was hiding in a big apple barrel when he heard Long John Silver talking to some sailors. Silver said, "We'll wait until we find the treasure, then we'll take over the ship." Jim was shocked. He realized that Silver and some of the crew were planning a mutiny. They wanted to steal the treasure and the ship. Jim quickly ran to tell Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney. He said, "Long John Silver is planning a mutiny. We must be careful." Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney were surprised, but they believed Jim. They decided to keep an eye on Silver and the other sailors. The day of the voyage finally came. The Hispaniola was ready to sail. Jim, Dr. Livesey, Squire Trelawney, Captain Smollett and the crew boarded the ship. They set sail for the island, not knowing what dangers awaited them. As they sailed, Jim watched the sea. He thought about the adventure ahead. He was excited, but also scared. He knew they had to be careful of Long John Silver and the other mutineers. The voyage was long, but finally they saw the island in the distance. It was a big island with tall trees and high hills. Jim looked at the map. He knew the treasure was hidden somewhere on the island. The Hispaniola sailed smoothly across the sea. Jim Hawkins spent his days helping the crew and learning about the ship. He enjoyed the adventure, but he was always careful around Long John Silver. He remembered the mutiny plan and kept a close eye on the cook. One day, Jim overheard Long John Silver talking to some sailors again. Silver said, "We'll wait until we're close to the island. Then we'll take over the ship and find the treasure ourselves." Jim was scared, but knew he had to warn the others. He quickly told Captain Smollett, Dr. Livesey and Squire Trelawney about Silver's new plan. They were shocked but grateful for Jim's warning. They decided to be extra careful and make a plan to stop the mutiny. As the days passed, the crew became restless. They argued and fought with each other. Jim could feel the tension growing. He knew something bad was going to happen soon. One night, Jim heard strange noises. He sneaked out of his cabin and saw some sailors gathering weapons. He realized the mutiny was about to start. He quickly ran to warn the captain and the others. Captain Smollett and the loyal crew members prepared to fight. They gathered their weapons and waited for the mutineers to attack. The ship was quiet, but the air was thick with danger. Suddenly, the mutineers attacked. There was a big fight on the ship. Swords clashed and guns fired. Jim hid in a safe place, watching the battle. He was scared but also determined to help. During the fight, Jim saw a chance to escape. He grabbed the treasure map and jumped into a small boat. He rowed away from the Hispaniola, heading towards the island. He knew he had to find the treasure before the mutineers did. The island was dark and scary at night. Jim rowed towards the shore, his heart pounding with fear and excitement. He landed on a sandy beach and hid the boat. He looked around, wondering what dangers awaited him on the island. As he explored, he found a small hut. Inside, he met a strange man named Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn had been living on the island for many years. He was a sailor who had been left behind by his crew. He was wild and strange, but Jim decided to trust him. Ben Gunn told Jim about the island and the treasure. He said, "The treasure is real, but it's hidden well. We need to find it before the others do." Jim agreed, and they decided to work together. Ben Gunn knew the island well and promised to help Jim. They started their adventure early in the morning, walking through the thick forest. Ben Gunn said, "The treasure is hidden in a secret place. We must be careful. There are dangers on this island." Jim nodded, feeling both excited and scared. As they walked, they heard strange noises. Jim looked around nervously. Ben Gunn whispered, "Those are the sounds of the island. Don't worry, I know the way." They climbed hills and crossed streams. Finally, they reached a high point where they could see the whole island. Jim looked at the map and pointed. "The treasure is near that big hill with 3 tall trees." Ben Gunn nodded. "Yes, that's the place. But we must be careful. The mutineers might be there too." They carefully made their way towards the hill. As they got closer, they heard voices. Jim and Ben Gunn hid behind some bushes and watched. They saw Long John Silver and some of the mutineers digging in the ground. Silver shouted, "Dig faster! The treasure must be here!" The mutineers dug and dug, but they found nothing. Jim and Ben Gunn watched quietly, hoping the mutineers would give up and leave. After a while, the mutineers got tired and angry. One of them said, "There's no treasure here. We've been tricked." Silver looked furious, but he didn't give up. He said, "Keep digging. It must be here somewhere." Jim and Ben Gunn waited until the mutineers left. Then they quickly went to the spot where the mutineers had been digging. Ben Gunn laughed. "They were digging in the wrong place. The real treasure is hidden nearby." They searched around and finally found a hidden entrance to a cave. Inside the cave, they saw chests full of gold and jewels. Jim's eyes widened with excitement. "We found it! The treasure is real!" But their joy was short-lived. Suddenly, they heard footsteps outside the cave. Jim and Ben Gunn quickly hid behind the treasure chests. They saw Long John Silver and some mutineers enter the cave. Silver looked around and said, "I knew there was more to this island. We'll find the treasure no matter what." Jim and Ben Gunn held their breath, hoping Silver wouldn't find them. They waited until Silver and the mutineers left the cave. Then they quickly made a plan. Ben Gunn said, "We need to get the treasure to a safe place. I know a hidden spot where we can keep it." Jim Hawkins and Ben Gunn worked hard to move the treasure to a safe place. They knew the mutineers were still looking for it, so they had to be quick and careful. After hiding the treasure, they decided to find Jim's friends. They walked through the forest, always watching for danger. Suddenly they heard a loud noise. It was a gunshot. Jim and Ben Gunn ran towards the sound. They found Dr. Livesey and some loyal crew members fighting against the mutineers. Dr. Livesey saw Jim and shouted, "Jim, you're safe! We need your help!" Jim nodded and joined the fight. He was scared but determined to help his friends. The battle was fierce. Guns fired and swords clashed. Jim fought bravely, always staying close to Dr. Livesey. Ben Gunn helped too, using his knowledge of the island to surprise the mutineers. During the fight, Jim saw Long John Silver. He was fighting against Captain Smollett. Jim wanted to help, but he knew he had to stay with Dr. Livesey. Suddenly, one of the mutineers attacked Jim. Jim fought back using a sword he found on the ground. The mutineer was strong, but Jim was quick. He dodged the mutineer's attacks and fought back bravely. Finally, Jim defeated the mutineer. He looked around and saw that his friends were winning the battle. The mutineers were tired and injured. Some of them ran away, while others surrendered. Long John Silver saw that the battle was lost. He looked at Jim and said, "You're a brave lad, Jim. I underestimated you." Then he turned and ran away, disappearing into the forest. Jim and his friends were happy. They had won the battle and saved the treasure. But they knew they had to be careful. Long John Silver was still on the island, and he was dangerous. They decided to go back to the Hispaniola. On the way they found Squire Trelawney. He was injured but alive. They helped him and continued to the ship. When they reached the Hispaniola, they saw that some mutineers were still there. They were guarding the ship, but they were tired and injured. Jim and his friends quickly defeated them and took control of the ship. With the Hispaniola under their control and the treasure safely on board, Jim Hawkins and his friends prepared to sail back home. They were tired but happy. Their adventure had been dangerous, but they had succeeded. Before leaving, they searched the island for Long John's silver. They found him hiding in a cave. He was injured and couldn't fight anymore. Dr. Livesey said, "Silver, you caused a lot of trouble, but we won't leave you here to die." They decided to take Silver with them but keep him as a prisoner. They also found some of the mutineers who had surrendered. They agreed to work on the ship and help sail it back home. The voyage back was long but peaceful. Jim spent his days helping on the ship and talking to his friends. He thought about all the adventures they had and the dangers they had faced. He was proud of what they had accomplished. One day, as they sailed, Jim looked at the treasure chests. He thought about all the gold and jewels inside. He said to Dr. Livesey, "What will we do with the treasure?" Dr. Livesey smiled and said, "We'll share it fairly. Everyone who helped will get a share, and we'll make sure it's used for good things." Finally, after many days at sea, they saw land. It was England. They were home. As they sailed into the harbour, people on the shore cheered and waved. They had heard about the adventure and were happy to see them return safely. Jim was excited to see his family again. He couldn't wait to tell them about his adventures. He knew they would be proud of him. When they docked the ship, they unloaded the treasure. People watched in amazement as the chests of gold and jewels were carried off the ship. Jim and his friends were heroes. They divided the treasure fairly, just as Dr. Livesey had promised. Everyone who had helped on the adventure got a share. Jim's share was enough to make him and his family rich. He was happy and grateful for the adventure and the friends he had made. Great job sticking with the story all the way to the end. It's time to review the key ideas with a fun multiple-choice quiz. You'll find the answers in the comments section. Take your time with the questions, and don't forget to leave a comment below to let us know if you enjoyed the story. Your feedback helps us improve. If you liked it, show your support by hitting the like button. It really makes our day. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories. Thank you so much for being with us.